Hey, fans, listeners, and supporters. Welcome to the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. I am your host, Anita Santiago. Please like, share, subscribe, and review the podcast on all the major platforms. You can reach out to me directly by email at convoscws@gmail.com. Also, pop over to the website, lifeconvos.com, and get all the latest updates and your podcast merch. So I have a question for you. Have you ever had to reinvent yourself? Have you ever had to do something so radically different from anything that you've ever done before? We're going to talk about reinventing ourselves today because there are a lot of people out here that are not living their dream. And sometimes when you come to that realization that you're not living your dream, it's time to reinvent yourself. So, this episode is for all the people that are frustrated, stagnant, not really where they want to be in life, not sure how to get to where you really want to be in life. You may want to consider reinventing yourself. And what does that mean? Reinventing yourself means that you look at your current situation and, hey, I'm not really happy with this. It's not doing for me. It's not giving. Then the question after that is, what do you do about it? When we talk about reinventing ourselves, we typically save that conversation for the grown and sexy crowd. I'm not going to say any ages because I won't make nobody mad. But we usually save that for the grown and sexy crowd. You know, you're at a certain point in your life, your kids are older. Maybe you've been in your job for many years and now it's no longer satisfying. You've checked all the boxes. You graduated high school. You may have gone on to college or trade school. You've got a good job. You got married or you're partnered. You have kids. Kids are doing well. The pets are doing well. You go to a house of worship of your choice. And now you're like, ugh, is that it? Is that all? Is there nothing more? And typically at this time, we see people doing different things like they'll buy a fancy car or they'll go on a big trip or something like that, looking for the something that they can't put their finger on. Well, typically in this crowd, reinventing yourself means retooling for another career. But you can be a young person and find yourself in this position. Well, I went to school. I got a trade. I do this thing. I've done it for a while. It just doesn't feel the same anymore, but it's good money. And I just feel stuck. Or you live in a certain living arrangement and, it's just not the area of the country that you want to live in. It's not the neighborhood you want to live in. It's not the type of home you want to live in. So what do we do? Well, reinventing yourself is a big undertaking. And for a lot of people, if you're finding yourself in a situation in life where you're really, really not satisfied with life in general, then reinventing yourself might be something that you want to consider. That may look like a new career. That might look like a new place to live. That might look like taking a risk that you wouldn't normally take. That might look like getting into a hobby that you wouldn't have done. That may look like reaching back to your childhood for that dream that you never realized and doing that. Whatever you decide to do as far as reinventing yourself, just know it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of commitment and dedication. You have to have a plan on what you want to do and what you want that to look like. So I'll use myself as an example. Many years ago, I'd say about 11 or 12 years ago. No, 11. Let's go with 11. 11 years ago, I realized that my current job just wasn't it anymore. You know, it's a good job. It's an okay job. A lot of responsibilities, I get to do a lot of interesting things, but it just didn't feel good anymore. I didn't like it, to be honest. And I didn't know what to do. And in my thought, I needed to change my job because that was the only thing I could think of was change my job. So I decided to go back to school, and that's when I started retooling for my career in mental health. So I started with a master's degree at a local university in clinical mental health counseling. Now, at the time, that's not the field that I was in. I'm in a totally different field, admin and budget. So I know nothing about mental health. Never worked in mental health, don't have any friends in mental health, don't have any insight into mental health. So when I started that process, I was like, wow, I have to rebuild my whole professional network. So I did a profile on LinkedIn and I started looking for people in my area that were in mental health or looking for people in the areas of mental health I was interested in. I'd send them a message on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm a student in mental health. I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can I talk to you for 5 minutes and learn more about what you do? Is there anything you can share with me? And I had many, many conversations with people about the mental health field, and it was great. So I'm slowly building my network up. I'm getting my courses done. And I realized towards the end of my master's degree that what I wanted to do in mental health, I really needed a doctorate. So then I started that process as well. And again, I knew people in counseling and mental health counseling. I didn't really know too many psychologists. So I had to start that process of reaching out, um, making connections, taking opportunities, uh, participating in training. So this whole process of me going from being a budget and admin person to a mental health professional has been about 10 years. And that's just because, honestly, I didn't do my homework like I needed to. And I probably should have just applied for a doctorate program from the jump, but I didn't realize that. So it's been about a 10-year process. And sometimes it's been harder than others. But, it wasn't just that I needed to, change careers. I needed other things too, in addition to that. Changing my mindset about what's possible at my age. Um, there's I think in the United States anyway, because that's all I can speak to, because that's where I live. But there seems to be this concept that once we get a certain age, we're not actively working, we're not actively going to school, we're not actively participating in society. We're ready to be grandparents and sit on the porch. Well, 65 is like the new 30. People are living longer. They're more active, way longer. They're in better health, typically. So it's very possible that you could be doing something and get bored with it and want to do something else. And guess what? That's okay if you want to do that. You don't, just because you went to school for accounting doesn't mean you can't go back to school for something else or learn a trade. Uh, I've known people that have had degrees that always had a passion for doing hair and finally got the courage to go to cosmetology school and do the thing that they love. And it's not really about meeting the mark for what society says we should do. It's really about doing what you were built to do or doing what works well for you. And that doesn't have any rules. That doesn't have any restrictions. The only restrictions we have is the expectations of what family members and friends and society says that they think we should be doing or they think we shouldn't be doing. Sometimes reinventing yourself can turn into picking up a new hobby and turning that hobby into a business. I know people that they were baking cakes in their home and now they have a whole business where they're taking orders every year. There are people that have done really phenomenal things like started making jewelry, started making earrings, maybe reselling things, owning a thrift shop. Like I've seen people take on these phenomenal hobbies and then now their hobby is a business and it's doing really well. Again, reinventing yourself can look like whatever you want it to look like. There are no rules. The only criteria is this the thing that was meant for you? And I feel like sometimes in trying to figure out where we want to be in life or what we need to be doing in life at a certain particular point, that first step sometimes we miss. Is this the thing that I was made to do? Is this the thing I was built for? Is this my purpose? I just saw my Facebook timeline, like I think 3 days ago. One of the people I'm connected with that has always been in business, starting as a teacher, something they've always been wanting to do. I was like, wow, that is so cool. And again, if we get to a point where we feel like we need to reinvent ourselves, we can do exactly that. We just have to determine what that looks like and what that is. For some people, reinventing themselves means getting their health together. I go to the gym. I've been in my gym a long time. Shout out Team Workout Heads. I love y'all to death. And sometimes people come in and say, I've been living this way for a certain amount of time and now I'm ready for a change. And reinventing yourself that way may be changing the way you eat, changing the amount of physical exercise you get, doing something totally different. I've read 2 stories recently that I'll share with you about people reinventing themselves from a healthcare perspective. One of those is that African American lady. I think she's in her 80s now. She's a weightlifter. She didn't start lifting weights until her late 60s. And if I remember the story correctly, she was dealing with some depression and decided that she was going to try this new thing. Now she is a world-class weightlifter, and in her 80s, she looks phenomenal and amazing. And she's still weightlifting. She's still doing her thing out there. And I believe she teaches classes. I cannot remember her name right now, but I know you guys know who I'm talking about. The second story I just read a couple of days ago is an older woman. She's 100. She just broke 3 records in running at the age of 100 in the Senior Olympics. She didn't start running until she was 70. It didn't say, the article didn't say why she started running, but she started running at 70. She's a runner. She runs every day. There are other stories that I've seen. People graduating from college at 80 and 70. And again, it's, first of all, you're never too old to do anything. So that's a given. But when you get to that point where you're ready to reinvent yourself, again, there's no rules. A lot of times we allow things to stop us because people don't feel comfortable with it. Let's say you want to move to another country. Let's say you want to move to Portugal or Panama or France. Oh, well, I don't know. You might not want to do that. And you say, well, my family's here in the United States and that might not be so good to do. Well, it might be good to do if you need to reinvent yourself. If you want an opportunity to live in another country and do something different, learn a new language. I think we're limited only by what we allow people to put on us as far as expectations. Well, you're such and such age. It doesn't make sense. You might not be safe. I know y'all sick of me talking about my Facebook friends, but I have another friend And she's an older woman and she travels the world. She goes to different countries. She stays there a few months. She shares her experience through her Facebook, and we get to see her travel the world. And it's amazing. And she's literally reinventing herself as a global citizen, not being tied down to anything or anyone, because that's what she chooses for herself. I'm just using these examples to kind of give a context to say that it doesn't matter what it is that you want to do or you think you can do. You can do it. You can absolutely do it, but you just got to put the work and the time into it. So if you're going to reinvent yourself, I think the first step is to make a plan, especially if reinventing yourself is going to have a financial impact. And especially if you are partnered or have a significant other, and this may impact your finances together. What's the plan? If you go to school, are you taking on debt? If you go to trade school, how much time is it going to take you? How long would you have to be in classes? Do you have to quit your current job to do this? Reinventing yourself often requires you to take risks. So the first part of reinventing yourself is making a plan and seeing if you can tolerate the risk. Um, there's a different risk level of going back to school than moving to another country. There's a different risk level in maybe going from one type of career to another type of career. Let's say you're an office worker, but you always wanted to be in law enforcement or be a detective. There's a different type of risk there. So you need to determine what your plan is. You need to look at the risk. You need to look at the time commitment. What is that going to look like? And then you have to understand what it's going to take. I will tell you, as a doctorate student of color, and choosing to enroll in a doctorate program because I want to be the change. I want to be part of the change that I want to see in how mental health services are delivered. I knew it was going to be a heavy lift, just because it's just hard. Doctoral level studies are just hard. Now, I knew that going in, but one of the interesting things that's happened on my journey was that I knew it was going to be a lot of work. I knew it was going to be rough, but I didn't know how rough until I got into it. So what I actually envisioned, it was so much harder, so much more difficult than I had actually anticipated. So again, I had to make a little adjustment there, but you may find the same thing. You may find that when you get into the thing that you're doing, you knew it was going to be hard, but it's much harder when you're actually doing it. So that's something to consider as well. And then, the best part is what's on the other side. After you embark on this reinvention, what do you have to look forward to? New places, new spaces, new people, new experiences, being out of your comfort zone. Go back to earlier in the year, comfort zone. I did a whole episode on that. Nothing grows in the comfort zone, right? But on the other side of reinventing yourself are all the amazing things that you're going to accomplish, whether that's working in a new field, whether that's living in a new place, whether that's having experiences that you can share with the world. So the why, the why of why you embarked on this path to reinventing yourself is what's going to push you to the other side. And when you get to the other side, guess what? You're going to find out, wow, this was really worth it. It was worth all the energy and effort that I put into it to get to this space and to get to this place. Sometimes I wonder what life would look like if fewer people settled. If fewer people settled and more people just took a moment and said, if I'm not where I want to be in life, if things aren't going the way that I want them to, what does it look like for me to get to where I want to be? What would my days look like? What would my career look like? I just think that people get so much negative pushback sometimes when they even try to say they don't want to do the thing that they're doing anymore, that it just discourages them. And they say, well, everybody thinks I should keep being a teacher. So I'm going to keep teaching even though I want to open up my own restaurant. I mean, really, people get this negative pushback, and it's unfortunate because there are a lot of people, I feel, my opinion only, there are a lot of people that really are not where they want to be in life, but because of this negativity, negative feedback, no hope, no support, no encouragement, it's really difficult to see how you can even start that process. It becomes very, very difficult. So for the people who may be considering, hey, I'm listening to this podcast episode about reinventing myself, that might apply to me. Your challenge is to really sit down and think about, if money wasn't an object and obstacles and fear were not an object, where would you be? What would you be doing? Write it down and start your plan for reinvention. To those of us that aren't in that space, but may have people in our lives that are not really satisfied with where they are, it's our job to provide that support. We don't have to agree with what people are doing. It's their hope, it's their dream. It's about them, it's not about us. Our job is to be encouraging, supportive, helpful, and to give hope. And when that person gets discouraged in the middle of their reinvention process, say, hey, don't get down. Don't stop. Remember, you said that you wanted to do this so that you could be happier, so that you could be healthier, so that you can enjoy life the way that you want to enjoy it. So our job as cheerleaders is to cheerlead and help people reach the other side of their process. So reinventing yourself, something to really, really think about. Like, it is 2024. We only have a couple of months left. A lot of people start the new year off with, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's, what's that phrase? New year, new me. I wish I had $1 for every post that I see every January. New year, new me, or this is my year. So here we are, ending out 2024. Are you where you want to be? Are you even close to doing what you wanted to do? Or do you need to reinvent yourself? Do you need to change some things up in your life? Don't be afraid. Just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. You're built for this. You're more than capable of achieving a goal. You just need people around you who are on a mission like you are, which is to be the best version of you that you can be. Encourage somebody today, please, if you can. And if you're struggling with reinventing yourself, commit to yourself. Tell yourself, I'm not going to go another day without putting forth the effort into constructing my life the way that I need it to be. I'm going to commit to me. I'm going to commit to this process, and I'm going to be better on the other side. I hope this topic is encouraging. It's meant to be encouraging and hopeful. I hope that if you're struggling with reinventing yourself, there's been some nuggets here that are very helpful. My challenge to you is to just do it. Either, if you're on the side where you need to reinvent yourself, get started. And if you're on the side where you're supporting people who are reinventing themselves, be consistent and support. So I want to thank you all for stopping by the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast to check out my thoughts on reinventing yourself. Please remember, need you to like, share, review the podcast on all the major platforms. It's really helpful. Follow the social media pages, Convos with Anita Santiago, IG, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. On TikTok, I'm AJS1291. And also pop over to the website, lifeconvos.com. Check it out and get your merch, get your updates on what's going on. And it's a great way to keep up with what I'm doing. Appreciate every listener's fan and supporter that keeps coming back for more. Thank you so much and happy listening.